And so that's so that folks who were not able to make it can watch this meeting after the fact. So that'll be up on our YouTube channel, and we'll post details about it in the newsletter. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just a moment. Okay, sorry about that if anybody got dizzy from how fast I was clicking back through those slides, but okay, so screen is sharing. Yeah, thank you everybody for being here. We're going to be talking about the RPM project and the Under-L activation. We have a representative from the RPM project here to speak with everyone, which we're very excited about. Jeffrey Wilson is here. So we will just very quickly go through the community agreements and a rough agenda. So if you've been to the virtual ward night meetings before, you're very familiar with these. Our community agreements: be present, be compassionate, be generous, be brave. There will be time for questions. And just be respectful of other people's time, and don't be afraid to ask questions. We're excited to speak with everyone. And as for an agenda, we're going to start with a presentation from Jeffrey. And then we will have a brief Q&A just with him. And then we'll hear some updates from Lenny, and then we'll move into the full Q&A. So that's how things are going to go down. So if everybody is ready on our end, I will pass it over to Jeffrey.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the Alder and Audrey for giving us this great opportunity to present to you the Under-L activation period and space that is essentially from the north side of Lawrence for 1.3 miles, or approximately 10 blocks north, to throughout the Albion and the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr modernization track area. So it's approximately, for those of you that don't know or weren't able to attend our public engagement meetings, we did have 2 public engagement meetings already on this subject matter in November and December. And so right now what we're doing is individual outreach and outreach to the remainder of the community that weren't able to attend. And thankfully for the 48th Ward, they've given us this opportunity to also present to you a snapshot of what we're doing and where we are, not only with the Under-L activation, but with the RPM project in general, specifically within the 48th Ward. So this is a 65-foot space from east to west underneath the L, where there used to be an embankment wall. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen this embankment wall or had seen this embankment wall before the demolition occurred, but it's been there for a little over 100 years. And now we have the opportunity to get rid of the entire thing. We have approximately about 5 or 6% of the wall left at the Lawrence area to demolish. And once that's complete, we will start working on finishing the caisson work that is the track structure that needs to take place in order for the westbound tracks to be installed, as well as the station construction to be started and completed by the end of 2025. So we're super excited about that. But the Under-L activation space, we're trying to get the community engagement feedback from people that live adjacent to and around the space, so that we can listen to your concerns, listen to what kind of benefits that you're expecting from this activated space. And we think this is one of the unique opportunities for the community to own and activate everything that's going to happen under there, with some minor caveats from the CTA with regards to the safety and security concerns that have been brought up several times, as well as the access to the structure itself that we need to have to do maintenance and provide egress and ingress during safety concerns. There's going to be new lighting that's going to be installed to the structure that'll increase the visibility. And then there's really a big point on the sight lines that we've received input from with regards to the alderman's input, as well as CPD, Chicago Police Department input, to make sure that while people are in and around the area, they have full sight of the entire space while it's being used. As I just said, we have ongoing coordination with the Chicago Police Department, with the Chicago Fire Department, and the utility companies that need to access the structure itself for maintenance, et cetera, like I previously stated. There's also the social service agencies that need to have access to the site for cleanup, as well as garbage and recycling that we'll need access to. So we're working with you and the electeds to make sure that all those concerns are being addressed before we actually put shovel on the ground to activate the space. Next slide, Audrey. So there's a schedule on your screen. This schedule is a little flexible, but not by much, because we really do want to have the site activated by the time we do the station opening in late 2025. So right now we're in the ideation and the concept development phase. This summer and late spring and this summer, we're going to come back out to the community with the initial rendering that we received from the company's site design, who are the ones that are actually putting all the ideas together. They're not the ones that are going to be building it. They're the ones that are helping us bring this to through the ideation process. So they have a lot of experience within the city of Chicago itself. They were front and center with the Chicago Riverwalk design and implementation. They have a big part of the Obama Library landscaping component. They were instrumental with the King Tom Park design on the just south of Roosevelt Road along the river. And there's several other projects that site design have been instrumental in getting off the ground and bringing to the public. So we're really proud to be partnering with them to bring this to the community and the electeds before the end of the project in late 2025, like I mentioned. So in the summer of this summer, in the end of the summer 2024, the framework plan, the report will be presented to the Alder with a presentation to the public. And that would be the third public meeting that we'll have on this. And we anticipate that being actually later than summer, probably more like early fall. Late this summer will be our second public meeting, and we anticipate having that in June. Next slide, Audrey. So this is a rendering of the new CTA purple line track structure, red and purple line track structure that we've actually presented before. If you've had an opportunity to come to any of our RPM red purple modernization public meetings, this just gives you a basic east and west side of what the track structure will look like when we're done. And then gives you a small idea of what that underrail activation space looks like from east to west. And that what I mentioned earlier is approximately 65 feet. Next slide. So unfortunately, the font is really low on this. Audrey, is there any way to bump that up? I apologize. That I should have already bumped it up before I presented. So I apologize. But if not, these slides will be made. I'm assuming will be made to your constituents, Audrey and Alder.
Definitely. So yeah,
okay.
I don't think there's any way for me to zoom in on it in real time, but we will share these, and I can also try to make everything bigger when we do share.
I appreciate that. My apologies. But
No worries at all.
This is just another cross section of the track structure and the conditions, and it shows you on the left-hand side of your screen the alley on the west side, and then on the right-hand side of your screen is the east alley. And then you're looking at the top left of your screen. The layout condition number 1 shows the multi-use possibility path, and the programmable areas, both in the center and the west and middle east of the track structure itself. Again, underneath the right-of-way, what we call the right-of-way. Next slide. Oh, sorry, Audrey. Next slide.
I did flip to the next slide. So this is layout condition 2, but the images do look the same to me.
Okay. Is it the new slide? Okay, so yeah, I think it might be the same imagery. How about the slide after that?
That's the last slide we've got.
Ah, I'm sorry, there should have been one more slide.
No, that's
And that's
okay.
a,
If you have it handy to send over to me, then we can screen share right now. Otherwise, we can also just make sure that that one gets in there when we share the presentation with folks.
yeah, so the slide basically was a representation of what could be, and I'll make sure to get those to you, Audrey. They were the same slides that we had during the public meeting format, which just gave examples from Miami and certain other cities that had activated their underrail right-of-way areas too. And I'll make sure you get those this evening. And then the last slide was just a way to get in touch with us. For many of you who already know me, my name is Jeff Wilson. And my email address is the letter J, my last name Wilson, so jwilson@transitchicago.com, which is one word. And then the Alder and Audrey both have my personal cell phone number, which they're not supposed to give out, but I encourage you to get in touch with them. And they will text me any issues or concerns that they have with regards to making sure that they relay your input to me. Or you can just email me. We're really good about responding to emails. Can I get an absolutely, Audrey, on that one?
Absolutely.
So yeah, we do pride ourselves in getting back to the community with any questions or concerns they may have. But that brings us to an end of the actual presentation. So if there's anything you have for me, please feel free to let me know. We're really excited about this process. Like I said earlier in the presentation, this is a once in a generation opportunity for us to get it right and make sure that the community involvement, community input gets tied into what we're trying to do here, which is bring a space that was otherwise accessible to everybody that lives and plays and shops and everything around this community. So we're very excited.
Yeah, so this portion of the Q&A will be just questions for Jeff about the RPM project and the underrail activation. I did put your email address in the chat, jwilson@transitchicago.com. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. So then I'm going to stop sharing just so that I can see raised hands. But yeah, does anybody have any questions for Jeffrey?
And if you have questions about, if it's okay, Audrey, if they have questions about RPM in general, grab me while you can.
I have
Yeah,
a question.
definitely.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Just a quick question. I have looked at the last thing that you posted at one of the last meetings on Facebook, samples of other, designs. And my biggest concern, well, I have two concerns, but it's like, do we have to have rough-hewn boulders to sit on? I mean, why do we have to make seating in these areas as uncomfortable as possible just to discourage homeless people from using them? I mean,
Yeah, Lisa,
it would
that's
be
a great
nice.
question. That's a really good
It
question.
would be nice to have like a comfortable place to sit and read or whatever, just watch the world go by for a few minutes.
I love it, and I don't disagree with you at all. One of the problems we have with activating spaces like that is a big concern for us is sometimes dealing with unhoused situations that make it uncomfortable for people that want to do just that is a real challenge for CTA. But I don't disagree with you. I think sitting on a boulder isn't necessarily the most ideal place to eat your lunch. Hopefully that you purchase from one of the amazing restaurants in the 48th Ward. But I don't disagree with you, and I definitely will take that back to see what other options we can have for sitting and enjoying life.
I have one more question, if I may.
Absolutely.
Chicago has pursued basically light up the world like a football stadium approach to crime. I live across the street from a park, and it used to have fireflies in it, but it doesn't anymore because there's so much LED lighting in the park that it's like walking into a 24-hour pharmacy. And I'm hoping that, I think this is once again another I know that they are planning on installing lots of lighting and making sure that sight lines are wide open in these spaces, but does it have to be like, 1,000 watts all the time? Is it good? In other words, do we have any input into this? And also, I would think the people living nearby wouldn't necessarily like it to be like completely lit up like at all times either. It's going to affect other people who are going to be living nearby.
Yeah, Lisa, this is one of those age-old questions that full disclosure, I've been at CTA for 24 years, which I know a lot of you think is shocking considering I look like I'm 24. However, it's a mixed bag. I got to tell you, like, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. Our lighting wasn't like it is now in the past, and we got a lot of, then we have the situation with what the city, all parts of the city are going through right now with regards to, crime, et cetera, and feeling safe. And that's one of the goals that CTA obviously wants to have with this activated space, is to make sure everyone feels safe while they're utilizing it. But to your point, it's lit up like Christmas. I'm not going to lie to you. So
yeah,
yeah. I don't disagree.
Seriously, the city of Chicago's lighting strategy is changing the migration patterns of birds. All right, it's ridiculous.
It's so we have had requests from the community to shield the lighting that's on our platform right now to put in So cool. What I'd like to do, Lisa, is I'd like to take that comment back to the team and see what are the options. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have tie-in from the community and Alderwoman Lenny Manaa-Hoppenworth as well, and her staff, to make sure that we're getting it right. But I do want to bring that concern back, because you're not the first person to bring it up. Lighting is a big deal on both sides. Some people want it even more lit or better.
Well, and new housing developments are going up all around these spots, and I'm sure that the people who are going to be living right next door aren't necessarily going to want something that's just blasting light like 24/7.
Agreed.
That can be seen from outer space.
I agreed, if not beyond.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. All right. I just want to bring those 2 points up.
Lisa, I really appreciate the comments, and they're definitely going to be put to the test with regards to the team that's working on this right now and site design.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm going to read some questions from the chat as well. So Dave asks, the public meeting showed several types of activations ranging from landscaping to playgrounds, etc. Is it fair to assume that all these different types of activations will be implemented at different points along the length of the project? And is there any sense yet of what will be where?
Great question. So definitely it could be a mix and match of all those. What we presented were different moods. The full presentation from both meetings is on our website, transitchicago.com/RPM. The presentation is up there. And I would encourage everybody to go and look at the different options if you haven't already. And again, I will send these to Audrey. I'll send that link directly to Audrey so she can disseminate to the group. So to your point, yes, it is possible to have all those ideas implemented in that 1.3, approximately 10 blocks of activated space. Where we do that, oh, thank you, Audrey. Where we do that is what we're doing right now. That's the process that we're in right now. Is we've received initial comment, we're continuing to receive comment, and what we want to do is present that commentary to the alder and her staff, and then go back out to the community with everything that we've received and say, here it is. So there is the opportunity to again put in your suggestions and concerns and comments and help us, like I said earlier, to get this right. And I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I'll do another question from the chat. From Ed, in the past, there were different options presented for what could be done. How are those designs being decided, or have they already been decided? You may have touched on this a little bit already, but is there anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, so it has not been, nothing's been decided. We're still in receiving feedback ideation mode. And so if you have ideas, please send them to me or to the 48th Ward for them to pass along to me. But yeah, we are still encouraging people to submit their ideas.
Yeah,
So
if you
thank
wanted to
you.
throw ideas in the chat even, go for it and we can send them along to Jeff after the fact.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, we'll go with another question from the raised hands. Joseph, go ahead.
Hi, yes. I had one question. I saw in your renderings that there was like parking that was going to open up as like a part of the space. Would that be considered street parking as part of that system, or would it be free parking or like local building by building parking?
Great question. So yes, yes, and yes. Does that answer your question? So there is a part of the activated space that we have to provide parking to, and that's immediately behind the station house itself or behind the auxiliary station house. So when you look at where the stations are, immediately south of those stations, those station houses, except for Lawrence, which is being built on the north side of the street, there is approximately concrete pads that are being made available for, I believe it's 3 spots for each station. With regards to part of the ideation and input that we've received from the community, both business community and residential community, there is a request for certain areas to have parking. Again, we're putting all that together to present back to the community with, this is what we heard, this is what the feedback we've received with regards to parking specifically. And there it is. And you had Joseph, you had one question about, I think you said parking outside of the area, if I'm not mistaken. And please forgive me if I got that wrong.
Just like concerning about like, is it going to be part of the same parking system as the street parking? But I guess my follow-up question to that would be, is it park and ride specific parking, like for the train stations itself, where we would be able to access that? And if so, the major concern there is the crime that tends to be attracted around the train stations there. I don't know how many people are going to feel safe leaving their car at each of the train stations. I know that the older people here have been working on that, but I do know that it is a major concern. So would there be any safety features, cameras or like gated locks or anything like that would be put in place?
Yes. So the cameras and cameras and lighting, as well as working with the stakeholders involved and our own CTA security department, are part of the considerations that are being implemented into the activated space and design. With regards to park and ride, that was also brought up in the second public meeting that we had from residents in the 48th Ward as a request. The problem we have with park and ride is the space availability and the management of that, but it is part of the one of the asks that we did receive. So it is part of the consideration process.
All right. I know you have to get out of here pretty soon, Jeff. Do you have time for one more from the chat?
Oh, always. You know how much I love the 48.
All right.
I meant that sincerely, by the way.
Okay, so from Paul, you mentioned analyzing options on a block by block basis, but wouldn't a comprehensive approach allow for adjacent or complementary uses? So
Oh,
yeah,
that's a
just
great
like question about that block by block versus comprehensive.
Yeah, that's a really good, Paul, that's a really good question. And by adjacent, I don't know if you mean like outside of the approximately 65 feet that I mentioned within that 10 block, 1.3 miles. So are you talking about, for instance, let's say Argyle, outside of that project space where there's perhaps the opportunity to expand the activated space? So I just want a little bit of clarification on your question before I dive into an answer.
Okay, sure. I'll unmute to jump in. Yeah, I guess what
Thanks,
I meant
Paul.
was within the right of way. So,
Okay.
you know, the southern part might pick a basketball court, but then someone else in the northern section wants a basketball court. But how do you play all those options together if you're just analyzing block by block? Ostensibly, you could get 4 basketball courts or 4 ping pong things or whatever?
Yeah, no, Paul, that's a great question. And to answer that is, if that's what we want to say, is if that's the overlying ask from the community, and to your point, instead of basketball, insert pickleball, because what we did get a lot of requests for were pickleball courts, which I have yet to play. Everybody seems obsessed with this pickleball, and I still haven't jumped into that jumped on that bandwagon. So to your point, yeah. So if you know, if it Ardmore they want pickleball, and at Lawrence they want pickleball, you know, obviously we would go to the alder and say, hey, your constituents are begging for pickleball or basketball or whatever it is. Is that what you want us to move forward with? So I think the goal here is to really listen to the constituents. You know, we don't want to be the ones that say, you don't want pickleball, you really want a dog park, because that's the easiest thing for us to do. That's not what we want. We really do want to walk away. We're already proud of this project, to be honest with you. We're already excited about the opportunities that these 4 new stations are going to bring. This activated space is just kind of like the cherry on top of everything. So, you know, if the community wants pickleball, I think we need to look at that at the very least, and make that a consideration. Did that
All
answer your
right.
question, Paul?
Yeah, and I'll just jump in for a moment and to thank you, Jeffrey, for your ongoing efforts to keep in touch with the office, and also to help provide us with those 2 public meetings with site design. I don't know if anyone here was able to join those meetings, but if you were, you know, maybe let us know in the chat what you thought about it. Was it a good meeting for you? Did you get even more ideas in your head about what could be possibilities underneath the L tracks, or did you feel like the meetings could have been done any better? Because my interest is also in continuing that conversation and to take all of that feedback that we got from both of those meetings and to hear the report that Site Design and CTA came up with, and then to go from there. And hopefully we'll get a little bit more clarity about what the community said at those meetings and over the course of the last couple of weeks. And towards that end, I hope that people continue to reach out to Jeff by any means. They also have an office on Broadway. We have an office on Bryn Mawr, and we welcome all of your feedback. It is truly a historic opportunity for the community to weigh in on infrastructure that we didn't even know we were going to have available to us until they decided, oh, this isn't really worth keeping. And so they removed the embankments, and you saw so much light, and it's incredible the opportunities that we can actually think about having under there, talking about pickleball courts and dog parks and just gathering places. 48th Ward is one of the smaller wards in Chicago, and you know, we do have the lakefront, but generally in our area, in our residential areas, and in our you know, near our business corridors, we really don't have a lot of public gathering places, or parks or plazas or anything that we're talking about right now. And so folks are across Chicago are really looking to our neighborhoods to see what we're going to come up with. And so again, I thank Jeff for being here, for touching base with us, and we could do more of this again if people continue to want to engage, you know, in real time like this, because I think that this kind of meeting is really helpful to be able to ask questions and get the answers right away. Also, is there anything else, Jeff, that I forgot to touch on?
I just want to say thank you again, Alder. Audrey, you're amazing. I just really appreciate you so much for like dealing with my last minute, getting those PowerPoint presentations put together. So thank you very much. And to your constituents, we really appreciate your patience with the project. We know it's been a big impact on your day-to-day lives, and all I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're The light is on at the end of this tunnel. End of 2025, we plan on being out of there. So stick with us. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. As I mentioned in the chat, we'll be sure to share questions that we didn't get to with Jeff via email after the meeting. Because he really is great, super responsive to emails. We'll put that email in the chat again here in just a second. And super responsive to emails and so excited to hear everyone's ideas. So we'll be sure to share those questions with him. Okay, so next we'll move on to any updates from you, Alderwomen. I'm not going to share my screen again just because people want to see everybody's lovely faces and names. So on to you.
Thanks, Audrey. So we're here bi-monthly, and Audrey is really critical in helping us organize these virtual events. But we're also open to the possibility of doing things in a hybrid form. So if you would like for us to consider that, please let us know, and either here in the chat or by email, because we do want to have open the door for more people to join us. We know that virtual is a great opportunity for people who don't want to travel, but also I don't think that there's any substitute for having in-person, real-time conversations. So please let us know what you think about these meetings and how they're going. And so there is a lot happening right now, but I do want to, at the forefront, invite you all to the vigil that's going to happen, the community vigil that's going to happen at Senn High School tomorrow, Thorndale and Glenwood, to honor the life of Davion Gibson, who was murdered on the 31st of January, walking home from school. And it has been very difficult for the family and the Senn community, and students all over the neighborhood have been really feeling the impact of this loss. We want to support the family, who is inviting everyone to be there with them. They want to say thank you to the community who has stepped up to help raise, thousands of dollars to help them, not only bury their son, but also to hopefully resettle in a new home, because it's been very difficult for them. So, but the GoFundMe account was very successful, and they just wanted a chance to, say thank you to every single person who either shared it or contributed, so that they could lay their son to rest. So that's happening tomorrow, Friday at 5 o'clock, and you're all invited. We just a couple updates from City Hall. We continue to fight for transparency, and so today City Council we did not pass arbitration for Chicago Police Department, and voted yes for more transparency, especially in the cases of the worst case scenarios in terms of police accountability. And that was that any of our City Hall meetings are available for you to either attend in person or to view in real time on the City Clerk website. And if you want to share public comments, please also do so through the City Clerk, or you could pass on to the chairs of any committee that I sit on, and we'd be happy to share that. We love representation from the 48th Ward. This ward is very, very engaged, and for that, I'm so grateful. The other thing I wanted to update you about is we are, grappling with not only the public safety for our students, but also in our business districts on Broadway and Andersonville and on Argyle. And I want to encourage everyone to consider 911 and the 311 app. So the 911 call is for things that are immediate and urgent, and not only can you call it right now, but you can also go to Smart 911 and register a safety profile for yourself, for your homes, for your business, so that when hopefully you will never have to call 911, but if you do, the operators will already have a line on your location and who you are, a little bit of who you are, so that they could be responsive. And really that's what we need to encourage right now, is for folks to call 911 for emergent reasons, and then for non-emergencies to call 311. And 311 is also available as an app. 311 is used for city services that you need for our streets and our sidewalks, lighting, because that is all a part of public safety. And potholes, we could use your eyes and your ears and your help to register all the things that we can be doing to fix, for instance, our curbs so that they remain ADA accessible, our bike lanes so that you can see them, things that need to be painted or repainted. We love that kind of feedback. We're out on the streets every day also. And we want to make sure that you're getting the service you need. It would help if you could help us help you. The other thing I wanted to mention is that our office is here on Bryn Mawr 4 days a week, and then on Fridays remotely. And that means that we're here for you Monday through Friday. But if you do have an issue during the weekends, we are also responsive by email and by phone. So please don't hesitate to call us any time of the day or night, because we really are here for you, and we are here to connect you to all the city services that you deserve. So with that, the purpose of these meetings is for me to listen to you and to hear your questions and concerns. And so with that, I will hand it to Audrey so that we can hear some of those questions.
Thank you, Lenny. I am just throwing some more information into the chat. Staff, so that any links you brought up while you were talking, I've been doing my best to share. So you should be able to see all those resources in the chat. But yeah, with that, we will move on to a more general Q&A. Feel free to ask more questions about the RPM project. We'll answer them to the best of our abilities, but also just anything that's been on your mind. So the way we'll do this is I'll alternate between raised hands and questions in the chat, or if you have a question that you don't want to ask in real time right now, but you want us to be aware of, you can use the Q&A feature in Zoom, which should be somewhere in the dashboard at the bottom of your screen. And we'll just get through as many as we have time for. So any questions? Heriberto, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the Alderwoman could give us an update on the Broadway Armory shelter. Any new refugees or asylum seekers coming in there? Just wanting to know what's happening at the shelter.
Thank you for that question. So last August, we converted the Broadway Armory to a temporary shelter. And at the time, it was the 8th shelter that it was open in the city, the second one that the new administration opened. And at this time, we have 28 shelters. The buses continue to come from Texas. We are working with the state to open more shelters. We have one state-run shelter in Little Village right now. And the Broadway Armory is continuing to see new asylum seekers into the shelter. And at the same time, we see that people are moving out. These are families, these are babies, and these are pregnant women that are coming into the shelter. And what they're waiting on is work authorization so that they can get a job, and also permanent housing in a location that they can afford. We're really grateful for the faith-led initiative. Churches and other faith-led organizations are opening up their doors so that they can welcome in families and individuals, so that they don't have to live, in a huge setting like a gymnasium. More of a welcoming, appropriate, family appropriate setting. That is really being embraced by community. So we thank our community for doing that. We have a capacity at the Broadway Armory for 350 individuals. And at this time, we have some of the lower numbers that we've seen since August. So I believe right now we're around 280. The issue is that we don't know what's going to happen in terms of the influx of individuals. We still see buses going everywhere across the nation. And we also understand that wherever they're landing in the nation, and in our suburbs, those municipalities are giving the individuals train tickets or bus tickets directly to Chicago. So it's cold right now, but we don't know what's going to happen in the summer. Now, just a couple months ago, we had all of our police stations filled with people sleeping on the lobby floors of the police stations. And the city had a goal to decompress the police stations, so that everybody would have a better place to temporary shelter. And we were able to do that. Now we understand that the next priority is going to be public spaces such as the Broadway Armory and other park districts. So we do have that out from the administration, that we are the park districts are going to be next to be decompressed. At this time, we just can't give a definite end date. My goal is to hopefully, cross fingers and toes that we would have the facility open for the use in the spring and the summer and in the fall for programming for our kids. This is a facility it's the largest in the park system. It has, a attendance rate of about 1,500 people a week on, in a regular year. And those folks have been able to plug into other parks across like Peterson Park and Margate Park. And programming has moved to schools like Swift and Sen, and other facilities like Philadelphia Church is welcoming, young people into their doors for after school programming. But it doesn't, replace what once was a centralized location for people to go. This is a place where seniors go regularly. This is a place where those who are housing and food insecure go to for hot meals, and our young people go to for after school programming. So it's a very important part of our community. And we continue to have conversations, with the park districts, with public schools, and with the administration to figure out what's next. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to a question from the chat. Ari is asking if there's any updates on the suspects in the shooting that happened near Sen 2 weeks ago. Any convictions, updates from law enforcement?
So there are no convictions as yet, but we know that the police and detectives continue to investigate. It's really a tragedy what happened on Thorndale, and we're very eager to learn, what's next if somebody is going to be called to justice. And my curiosity is, what does that justice mean? Where, what happens to those who are convicted, and how is it that the family is going to reconcile in their lives what happened to them? So we continue to watch and learn, and in the meantime, hold the families really close to us, and hope that you and others will come to the vigil tomorrow at 5 o'clock at Senn High School. And if you were not able to join us, we had a community meeting at Philadelphia Church this week with the 20th and 24th Police Districts. We also had representatives from the mayor's office there, from public health, and also community policing, the district counselors from both of the police districts, and others, including the violence prevention activists that are working in Senn and all of our public schools, actually in the 48th Ward, through One Northside and Communities Partnering for Peace, so that we can prevent more violence from happening in our young population. But that conversation, although it was great, it was very short, and so I'm glad that we can be here together, continuing on the conversation to figure out what's next in terms of how we're going to keep our community safe. So thank you for the question. I hope that helped.
Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Harry Bertram, I'm assuming that your hand is raised from last time, so I'm going to go ahead and lower that for you, but feel free to raise it again if you have additional questions. Yeah, any other questions, go ahead and put them in the chat or raise your hand. We do have a little bit of time left. Otherwise, do take a second to scroll back through the chat. There's some information in there about the vigil.
Thank you, everyone, again for joining us. And I do, again, want to invite you to let us know what you think about these meetings, if you think virtual is the way to go, or if you would like to see a hybrid option. We would like these meetings to be accessible to as many people as possible, which is why we'll definitely record every one of them and put them up on YouTube for you to view later. But the purpose is to, listen to you again, to listen to your concerns. It's just another opportunity for us to gather together and to hear what our neighbors are thinking about too. These days, public safety is and every day is at the top of everybody's minds. But I'm heartened to know that, the city agencies are working very hard to work together to coordinate the victim services event that we had at the Edgewater Library immediately after the murder. Was extremely helpful for so many people. I know Chicago Public Schools is working very hard to make sure that the students have opportunities to connect with caseworkers and social services. And at the same time, it's hard, it's going to be hard. Everyone is they're rooting for our young people, and also want to wait for us to organize to show them support. So the vigil is going to be one way to do that. Another idea that we are trying to organize around is the idea of a safe passage. And that's something that's an actual program that can be resourced by the city. We just need to say that this is something that we want. And that's in coordination with the aldermanic office and also with the schools, including the high school and the elementary schools on Thorndale. But it just isn't those two schools. It's it's every single school. Every single school should have a safe passage from a kid's home to the school, and from the school to the home, and everything in between. And it shouldn't matter where you live, in the 48th Ward or across the city of Chicago. All of our kids deserve that. And so we're going to be pushing for that in our neighborhoods, and at the same time thinking of, you know, every single neighborhood should also have that. And it does take a lot of work, and commitment though, for everybody to say that they're going to do a little bit. So not one person has to do a lot. We can't expect the police to solve everything. They can't, you know. We all have to do our part, and that means families, students, listening to the students, listening to the principal who basically are with our kids, you know, more hours of the day than we're with them at times, you know. I just want to again thank you for continuing to show up for the vigil, for the community roll call, victim services events here at ward nights, and you know, out on the streets. I'm here for you, and I'm committed to working with everyone and really listening to our young people to find out what they need so we can have not only a better 48th Ward, but a better city of Chicago.
Okay, so then we'll end it there. Thank you very much, Alderwoman. And I am going to stop the recording, but I'll leave the meeting running for just a few minutes in case anybody does want to throw last minute questions into the Q&A for us to read later. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.